Iran is a millennia-old country, heir to the great Persia, full of mysteries, traditions, and surprises that will blow anyone's mind. From Persian carpets worth millions to rules that seem to come from another era, this place holds secrets that few know about. Want an example? Did you know that in Iran you can get married for an hour, leave for your honeymoon, and when the time is up, the marriage simply disappears? No divorce, no bureaucracy, no complications. And that's just the beginning. That's exactly why today Bello Mundo is going to take you inside this enigmatic country and reveal several curiosities that you won't believe. Number 1. Location and geographical data. Be honest, if I gave you a map, would you be able to pinpoint exactly where Iran is? If the answer is, to be honest, I'm not sure, that's okay. It's more common than it sounds. Iran lies in Southwest Asia, between the Caspian Sea, the Persian Gulf, and the Gulf of Oman, linking strategic territories. It borders 7 countries, including Iraq, Turkey, Armenia, Azerbaijan, Turkmenistan, Afghanistan, and Pakistan. With more than 1,600,000 square kilometers, it is the second largest country in the Middle East, second only to Saudi Arabia. And if you think it's just an endless desert, Iran has a lot more than sand. Much of the territory is arid and semi-arid, but that doesn't mean it's all dunes. In the north, the Alborz mountain range is home to Mount Damavand, an inactive volcano over 5,600 meters high. And get this, Iran even has ski resorts, such as Dizin and Shemshok, where snow is guaranteed. In other words, while some landscapes seem straight out of 1001 Nights, others are reminiscent of European ski resorts. The capital, Tehran, is in the north, surrounded by mountains. More than 8 million people live there, and if there's one word that defines the city, it's chaos. Number 2. History. This country is the direct heir of ancient Persia, a civilization that dates back thousands of years before Christ. In fact, until 1935, the country was officially called Persia in the West, and only then did it adopt Iran as its international name. And if you don't know how important Persia is today, know that they pioneered mail systems, public administration, and road construction to unify their vast regions. Over the centuries, the territory was invaded by Arabs, Turks, and Mongols, absorbing cultural influences. In the Middle and Modern Ages, dynasties emerged that reorganized the country autonomously, shaping the culture, language, Persian, and traditions that have largely survived to this day. But it's impossible to talk about modern Iran without mentioning the Islamic Revolution of 1979. Led by Ayatollah Khomeini, this revolution overthrew the monarchy of Shah Reza Pahlavi and established the Islamic Republic. This is where many of the country's strict rules came from, especially regarding women's clothing, alcohol consumption, and freedom of expression, for example. At the same time, this political change has brought Iran into conflict with Western nations, resulting in international sanctions, economic isolation, and a reputation that is often associated with a closed and conservative regime. However, if you expect to find a place stuck in time, you may be surprised to see large, modern cities, shopping malls, young people connected on social networks, even if officially censored, and a thirst for change present in the new generation. Number 3. Population and language. With more than 80 million inhabitants, making it one of the most populous countries in the Middle East, this country is a true melting pot of ethnicities and cultures. The majority of the population is Persian, but there are also Kurds, Azeris, Arabs, Baluchis, and various other minorities, each with their own customs and dialects. And speaking of language, Persian, or Farsi as they call it, is spoken in Iran. Despite being an Indo-European language, it uses an alphabet based on Arabic. So, if you look at an Iranian text, you might think it's Arabic. But the languages are very different. It's like comparing Brazilian Portuguese and Portuguese from Portugal. There are similarities, but they're not the same. Now, when it comes to religion, Iran has an important difference. Number 4. Religion and beliefs. Unlike many Arab countries where Sunni Islam predominates, in Iran around 90% of the population follows Shia Islam. And this division between Sunnis and Shiites? It stems from a dispute that began shortly after the death of the Prophet Muhammad and has never ended. The Shiites believe that the rightful heir should be Ali, the Prophet's son-in-law and cousin. The Sunnis argue that the successor should be chosen by the Islamic community. And to this day, this division has a huge impact on Middle Eastern politics. But if there's one thing no one disagrees with, it's the kindness of the Iranians. Have you ever heard of Tarof? Number 5. Tarof, exaggerated kindness. If you visit Iran, be prepared for a social game that could leave you completely lost. Imagine you're trying to pay for something and the shopkeeper says, "No way, please, it's a gift." Then you refuse. He insists. You refuse again. He insists again. Welcome to the world of Tarof. Tarof is a Persian code of manners that turns offers and refusals into a kind of social dance. It works like this. The one who offers shows humility and respect, and the one who refuses does so in order not to appear to be taking advantage. But there's one detail. The refusal has to happen at least 3 times. It's more or less the same as when someone offers you a chocolate. Everyone knows that this offer is just polite, because the person who offers it doesn't really want to share. Now in Tarof, the person will insist 3 times, and only after the 3rd refusal will they eat the chocolate alone without any guilt. And this doesn't just apply to paying bills. Tarof happens with dinner invitations, rides, and even gifts. Many tourists fall for this trick thinking they're getting something for free, when in fact it was just the shopkeeper being polite and hoping the person would insist on paying. Got a knot in your head? That's normal. But in Iran, this act isn't fake. On the contrary, it's a sign of refinement and empathy. Number 6. Gastronomy and eating on the floor. If there's one thing you can't miss when it comes to Iran, it's good food. And if you think Iranian cuisine is all about rice and mutton, it's time to update that concept. Iranian cuisine is a veritable rainbow of flavors, full of aromatic dishes, spices, fresh herbs, and lots of saffron. In fact, this expensive spice, known as red gold, has a home. Iran is simply the world's largest producer. And when it comes to typical dishes, the stars of Iranian cuisine are many. There's chelo kebab, an aromatic rice dish accompanied by lamb or chicken skewers, and the famous fesenjan, a sweet and sour stew with walnuts and pomegranate syrup that is simply unforgettable. And if you're a sweet tooth, Iranian desserts are a spectacle in themselves. Pistachios, rosewater, and cardamom are common ingredients in sweets that look like they've come straight from a royal banquet. Now, before you go imagining an Iranian dinner with wine, beer, or any other alcohol, forget it. For religious reasons, alcoholic drinks are forbidden. That's right. If you love having a beer in the evening, be warned. By law, alcohol consumption in Iran is forbidden for Muslims. Even foreigners, in theory, cannot drink. Some people risk buying alcohol on the black market, but if they get caught, things get complicated. So how do you have fun? With lots of tea, the famous chai, a sacred item for Iranians, local soft drinks, and fruit juices, which can be quite exotic. One of the most popular is carrot juice, often mixed with custard ice cream, resulting in a sweet and refreshing drink. It may sound weird, but I swear it's surprising. They also have pomegranate juice, watermelon juice, orange juice, and so on. It's common for Iranians to fill the glass of juice with chopped fruit, turning it into a mini liquid fruit salad. Another curiosity: many houses simply don't have a dining table. This is because the tradition is to eat sitting on the floor, on rugs and cushions, placing a towel or plastic in the middle where the plates are. Number 7. Bread on the shoulder and no knives when eating. Still on the subject of food, you know that habit we have of carrying bread in a package? In Iran, you'll find that bread is literally carried under the arm. Bread is one of the most important foods in Iranian cuisine and is transported in ways that may seem unusual to outsiders. As many types of bread are large and flat, people often carry them without any packaging, directly in their hands, on their shoulder, folded under their arm, or even balanced on a motorcycle. This may seem strange, but it's completely normal in the country. Another curiosity is that they don't use knives at the table to cut their food. Yes, you can live without a knife in most Iranian dishes because the meat is already chopped or shredded, and you can handle it with a spoon, fork, or pieces of bread. It's very practical. You only realize you don't have a knife at the table when you come across a larger piece of meat. Number 8. Heritage of Persian carpets and ancient windmills. Now, leaving the world of gastronomy for a moment, let's talk about something that carries centuries of tradition and cultural richness. Because, let's face it, talking about Iran without mentioning Persian carpets would be a historical crime. These carpets are true works of art, with patterns so detailed that they look hand-painted. And the quality? It can be so absurd that some pieces are worth millions. To give you an idea, in 2010, a Persian rug was sold at a Christie's auction in London for just over £6 million. Converted to today's values, that would be almost 40 million riyals, or around $8 million. In other words, it's not just a carpet, it's practically a luxury investment. And no wonder, producing a Persian rug can take months or even years, depending on the size and complexity of the design. And there's an interesting curiosity. The artisans often insert small errors into the patterns on purpose. They do this because they believe that only God can create something perfect, so a human carpet can't be 100% flawless. There is even a saying that a Persian carpet is perfectly imperfect and precisely inaccurate. In addition to its artistic richness, this tradition has been recognized by UNESCO as part of the oral and intangible heritage of humanity. And now that we know all the charms, let's get to know the other side of the coin, one that isn't so beautiful. Number 9. Women, rights, and institutional machismo. Being a woman in Iran requires some flexibility. There are a series of explicit and implicit restrictions that make it clear that, in terms of the law, they are worth half of what a man is worth in various contexts. For example, in court, a man's testimony is usually worth double that of a woman. In inheritance, daughters get half as much as sons. And there is a whole culture that reinforces the idea that the man is the protector, provider, and guardian of the woman. If, on the one hand, Iranian women are extremely active, many are university graduates, doctors, engineers, and so on the other, they face sexist laws and customs that limit their freedom. Number 10. Dress code and the morality police. Since the Islamic Revolution, all women, including tourists, are obliged to cover their hair in public spaces and wear clothes that disguise their curves. No tank tops, necklines, or short skirts. The most common look is the rusari, which is the headscarf, and the manteau, a long coat up to the thighs. The chador, the large veil that covers almost the entire body, is only required in ultra-conservative places, such as religious shrines. Men also have restrictions: no short shorts or tank tops in traditional places. According to the regime, this is all part of preserving Islamic morals. And who monitors all this? The dreaded Gasht-e-Irshad, the morality police. They patrol streets and shopping malls on the lookout for any slip-ups. If the veil is too loose, the pants are too tight, or any part of the hair is sticking out beyond what is allowed, the person can be scolded, fined, or even arrested. And don't think it's just a boring rule. It's serious. In 2022, the case of Mahsa Amini, a young woman arrested and beaten for allegedly wearing a headscarf inappropriately, shocked the world. The violence was such that she didn't survive, and her death sparked a wave of revolt inside and outside Iran. And it's not just dress code. There's a lot involved. Number 11. Everything has to be authorized by the husband. In Iran, women can drive, study, and even work, but always under certain conditions. And when it comes to married women, everything revolves around the husband. Want an example? Passports. If a married woman wants to take out or renew her passport, she needs her husband's permission. Yes, you heard right. Without his signature, international travel simply won't happen. What if she doesn't have a husband? Well, in that case, the father or another male guardian takes on the role. Now, if the husband is absent, the father-in-law can authorize it. And what if the father-in-law isn't available either? Then the role can fall to the brothers-in-law. In other words, if the husband decides he doesn't want his wife to travel, she doesn't travel. For many people, this seems unbelievable, but in Iran, this is part of the legislation, which follows the interpretation of Islamic law applied by the government. And it doesn't stop there. For certain jobs, a woman also needs her husband's approval. Now, there's a curiosity. Unlike in some Gulf countries, women are allowed to drive in Iran. But there are reports of chauvinism in traffic and police harassment, with stories of women having their driver's licenses confiscated without explanation, or being forced to get out of their cars for nebulous reasons. When it comes to divorce, the scales are also tipped in favor of men. They can get divorced for practically no reason, while women need to prove something serious. And even then, they can be denied if their husband doesn't agree. Number 12. Temporary marriage, Sighe. Think you've seen it all? Then hold on to this. In Iran, there is a concept called temporary marriage, also known as Sighe. How does it work? Basically, a man and a woman enter into an agreement to marry for a set period of time. It can be for days, months, years, or even a single hour. That's right, a marriage with an expiration date. The most curious part is that once the period has expired, the marriage ends automatically, without the need for a divorce or any bureaucracy. In theory, it's a religious contract valid under the rules of Shiite Islam. In practice, the story changes somewhat. The woman's family receives a dowry, but she has no right to an inheritance or pension, as the contract simply expires. Now, let's be honest. In practice, this is just a legal loophole for relationships that would otherwise be considered adultery or even prostitution. In many cases, Sighe is not exactly the woman's choice, but the family's decision. What's worse, there are reports of parents selling their daughters into temporary marriages out of financial necessity or to pay off debts. But what about when the temporary marriage ends? The situation becomes even more difficult for the woman. Being divorced in Iran can mean facing prejudice, difficulties in remarrying, and even the loss of social and family rights. In other words, temporary marriage may seem like a quick fix, but for many women, the social price to pay is extremely high. What do you think of these curiosities? Is there one that has blown you away, whether it's temporary marriage, the carpet of millions, or the way you carry bread on your shoulder? Let us know in the comments. Thank you for following us here, and we'll see you on our next Bello Mundo adventure. Until next time.